if you're a wrestler and you do spots with glass, that's how you shorten your career. What happened since is AEW ticket sales are in the shitter. They could barely sell 4,000 tickets for a 12,000 seat arena. Punk basically said, yeah, I choked them out. Maybe Tony should be afraid. Yeah, Tony should be afraid of the fact that he has a business not making money. He has a business that can't draw 4,000 people at a fucking arena.
Valkyrie Club for life.
So you haven't been keeping up with the news and stuff, like, so CM Punk did a pretty big interview. But anyway, he does this interview. In the interview, you know, they touched on some pretty tough topics. You know, Punk being fired from AEW, what led to that? What led to the first time? The scrum and talks in between that. How even before Tony Khan brought him back the second time, he just kind of wanted to get out of there. Due to basically what he described as not a real business. He kind of went into the Jack Perry situation. Jack Perry wanted to do a spot with glass. Well, if you're a wrestler and you do spots with glass, that's how you shorten your career. As how you can get seriously injured. As much as I love Darby Allin, he's kind of a dumbass for doing that glass spot at this past AEW pay-per-view. You know, when it was, Sting's retirement or whatever. So, Punk basically told Jack Perry, yeah, don't do that glass spot. And not only Punk, but a bunch of other people behind, backstage at AEW told Jack Perry not to do it. And then Jack Perry does it at the Wembley show. Basically, saying the camera, oh, it's real glass, Carmia River. Punk had a problem with that. Punk basically said, yeah, I choked them out. Not in like a serious way, but that was the altercation. Okay, a week later, Punk is fired. Tony Khan allegedly said he feared for his life when many other people backstage contradicted Tony Khan. What happened since is AEW ticket sales are in the shitter. They could barely sell 4,000 tickets for a 12,000 seat arena. Ratings are ratings are in the toilet. Mercedes Moné, who I love, aka Sasha Banks, makes her big debut, right? They have this big thing called Big Business. They do this big show. Does well ticket-wise. You know, they filled that arena pretty well for that one show. The ratings were shit. Like, I feel bad for Mercedes. You make this big debut. You talk about you're going to do this in this company and all this stuff. They didn't have the ratings they had a few months back. Then you look at the following shows since then, and you're looking at ratings that are 0.2, 0.3. Essentially, what that means is maybe 200,000 or maybe 300,000 people watch the show. Other issues right now with AEW is like, the booking is awful. And don't get me wrong, like, the booking's always been bad, right? Like, no one's going to pretend otherwise. The booking has always been not great. Maybe Tony should be afraid. Yeah, Tony should be afraid of the fact that he has a business not making money. He has a business that can't draw 4,000 people at a fucking arena. Yeah, they had a bloated roster for so long, but they also have 4 shows. Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, and then you have Ring of Honor, which is even more depressing. I don't even know if I want to go on that rant. There's wrestlers I love who've been relegated to afterthoughts. They made a big deal when they brought Athena in. Athena is an amazing wrestler, right? You know, trained by Booker T, had a great run in WWE for a while there. I mean, she wasn't used the best, but, like, she had some decent matches. Gets to AEW, they make a big deal bringing her in. She has a few feuds, and then they throw her aside. She just vanishes. And once in a while, she'll pop up. And she's the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and they barely fucking make mention of her. That's embarrassing. Taya Valkyrie is another one. Loved her work in Impact, and she was on NWA for a while. Before that took a fucking downturn into the ground. And then she made her debut in AEW. Again, another big deal. They brought her in, she had a few feuds, and they threw her aside. Nyla Rose is another one who has just been relegated to jobber status, which is depressing as all hell, because she can work a good match. You know, if you put her with the right person, she can have a great match. And then you got big, like, right now, yeah, Jamie Hayter's still out with the injury. Where the fuck is Britt Baker? Well, apparently Britt Baker's just been sitting home all of 2023. She's not out with injury. So you have your hottest female star sitting at home doing nothing. What the fuck? Yeah, they never book her properly. They tried in the beginning. I remember they had her, like, where she's walking around talking about, I break bitches. I love that. But they didn't really take it anywhere. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, a few weeks of this, and then they moved on and didn't know what the fuck to do with her. It was so infuriating. I don't want to rant too much, but, like, again, Eddie Kingston, I mentioned that. I love the Mad King, Eddie Kingston. One of my absolute favorite wrestlers, just like CM Punk. And the reason why for that, like, despite people not liking Kingston or not liking Punk, they give you something to believe in, right? Like, yeah, I mean, it's all, as we all know, predetermined. It's play fighting in a ring or whatever. But, like, as performers, they give you something to believe in. But, like, Eddie Kingston, right? So they start with, they put the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship on him, which is, like, a very prestigious title. Then he wins the NJPW Open Strong Championship. Not the most prestigious, but, like, for him, it meant a lot, right? For Eddie Kingston, that meant a lot. He did it in the arena he wanted to do. I watched that match. I cried. Like, I get emotional with wrestling sometimes, right? I cried. I was like, like, just as a fan, I was happy for him. I was like, man, this dude, he finally did what he wanted to do. He had his own demons for so long. He really fucking struggled with stuff, right? But he overcame all of it. That's what's amazing about Eddie Kingston. Even if you don't like, even if someone's like, oh, well, he just he does all the strong style highlights and that's it. Oh, who cares? He, like, as a person, he overcame a lot of shit, and he fulfilled his dream, right? In Japan, not specifically for the belt, but performing in that arena. You know, that was a big thing. Then they have the big AEW Continental Classic, right? This big tournament, and this is when I started watching AEW a lot more. Right, and this was a few months ago. And it was a great tournament. Great wrestling. Long story short, they give Eddie Kingston the AEW Continental Championship. He's the inaugural champion. Because he has 3 belts, he is a Triple Crown champion. And they treat him like the fucking mid-card. Are you serious? How are you going to have someone like Eddie Kingston and be like, no, partner, you're not fucking main eventing this pay-per-view. You're going to the mid-card. You're going to go open the fucking show. And the old argument whether a match should open the show or close the show. I'm of the old mindset, the main event is the match that closes the show. But regardless, they didn't really do anything with him. They had some great matches. The story him and Bryan Danielson told, amazing. But then they bring Okada in as a heel, which is fine. One week, Okada attacks Kingston, right? Because the whole swerve with the Young Bucks and all this stuff. I'm not going to get into that, but... And then 2 weeks later, okay, now they're going to have a match on TV for the Continental Crown Championship. Okay. And then Okada beats Eddie, and that's it. They could have taken that whole feud, stretched it out a bit. Even if they only went to whatever this month's pay-per-view is. I don't fucking know the names anymore. Because I wish they just stuck with the 4 major pay-per-views a year, but Tony Khan's a money mark. They could have stretched it and told, like, an interesting story and have a back and forth and, like, make it almost into a blood feud. Like, Okada and Kingston, that's money. No. Instead, they have the match on a Dynamite with less than 4,000 people in the arena. I think it was like a 10,000 something seat arena. They barely had 4,000. Shit rating, and okay, Okada beat Kingston. Just, job them out. Call it a day. And that's what they did. And, like, that's why, as a wrestling fan, I'm extremely just upset, with AEW. Like, wrestling as a whole is in a weird place right now. There's, like, amazing things happening, but at the same time, with all the Vince McMahon bullshit, it's, like, in this weird place, right? You have this old man's disgusting behavior overshadowing good things. But yeah, essentially, to get back to CM Punk, in this interview, he just buried the company. And, but he did it, I would say he buried it, but not in a selfish way. Essentially, in the interview, CM Punk, says, he's like, I have a lot of friends there. There's a lot of people, I tried to pass my teachings on to, and I'm happy they're getting a paycheck. I'm happy they're able to feed their family. And, that's just CM Punk. He's humble in that sense. I'm sure Phil Brooks, the businessman, is an asshole. But, just as a person talking about stuff, he's a very humble guy. But, it is what it is. I would urge people, watch that interview. It's long. Watch it in parts. But, they dive into all the stuff no one's talked about in months. There's a lot of people who talked about the behavior and the atmosphere behind the scenes at AEW for many years now. And you hear what Punk's saying, you hear what they're saying, you look at the results of what's happened over the last few years, and you're like, yeah, they were right the whole time. And some of those people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a big Jim Cornette fan, right? Because Jim Cornette's very problematic. But he's not fucking wrong when he talks about some of the problems there. I'm not an Eric Bischoff fan by any means. I think the guy's a fucking self-centered prick. But he's not wrong when he talks about the business side of AEW. He's not wrong if he turns around and says, oh, I think Tony Khan should maybe book smaller arenas. Or smaller venues. And scale down to then try to save money, start making money, and then maybe try to grow again. That's... regardless what you think of someone, that's not bad advice. Not only that, I mean, you just other wrestlers too. Jim Ross has commented on stuff. Granted, he's never thrown the company under the bus because he's employed by them, but he's had his critiques too. And that's a guy that has a mind for the business. Kevin Nash is another one. Now, again, I don't like Kevin Nash, but when you're talking the business side of things, it is what it is. So it's a situation where AEW's booking is worse now than it was ever. They are in the period that WCW was in 1999 and 2000, and going into 2001, where nothing is meaningful. It's all shotgun booking. None of the feuds are worth a damn getting invested in. They change titles, it seems like every month someone has a different belt. Maybe that'll be different with Samoa Joe, but I don't know. Maybe things will change when MJF comes back. I doubt it. Because we're in that... I don't know. I think MJF is, if he hasn't re-signed, he's probably better off going to WWE. And I don't like WWE, for a lot of reasons, but... the biggest thing is you look back on when Cody Rhodes left in 2022, right? I think that's a major thing. Even though Cody himself has never said, oh, I had bad blood there, or, I didn't get along, or, regardless of the fact, the guy was an EVP. He could have just taken a back seat and had the cushiest job in the world and made probably more money than he's making now. Let's be completely honest. You have access to a billionaire's bank account. As an EVP, you are, to an extent, within reason, able to dictate what you're paying, what you're going to do, and etc. But instead, he chose to forego all of that. To my understanding, he basically was quote-unquote bought out of his share, and then went to WWE, right? And again, even if you're not a fan of Cody Rhodes, he's in the middle of the hottest feud in pro wrestling. Goddamn, that I can think of in fucking years. So here's the guy who had a piece of the pie at AEW, and he said, "I don't want the pie anymore. I'm going to go elsewhere." That says a lot. That says a lot. And that goes back to the bullshit with the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page. Because you go back, you look at that interview, or not interview, I'm not going to pull it up, but like the Hangman promo where he's telling CM Punk, "Oh, I'm gonna protect AEW from you," and all this. Like, basically, as Punk said, going into business for himself, being a fucking child, ultimately saying, "If you have a fucking problem with what I'm saying, come and find me." And they did, and they got their ass kicked for finding him. And it is what it is. What's up, Medusa? How's it going, Dusa? But it's like, that's where we are. That is where we are with pro wrestling. I crave violence. Oh my gosh. And like, don't get me wrong, I like, despite all the shit I just said about AEW, I'm sure Mercedes Moné is going to have some amazing matches. But don't be surprised, in a few months, Mercedes Moné vanishes from TV. Don't be surprised, in a few months, Toni Storm just goes away. Or Deonna Purrazzo just vanishes one day. They never fucking explain where the fuck these people go. When CM Punk was fired, Tony Khan was more than happy to go in front of an audience and talk about firing CM Punk. But they don't have the gall to inform their audience, "Hey, this person's out on injury," or "We're taking this person off TV." And if you're going to take someone off TV, write them off, right? For whatever reason it may be. Whether it's a personal issue, a physical issue, whatever it is, write them off TV for a while then. Then you at least give the audience a logical storyline reason. Hey, this is why Britt Baker's not here, or this is why so-and-so's not here. But they don't even do that. They just vanish. It's like, again, Britt Baker, the biggest fucking star in AEW next to MJF, spent the entirety of 2023 sitting at home. She can fucking go in the ring. She could fucking go on commentary, and she could cut a hell of a promo. And you're just like, I'll leave her at home. I'm happy that people like Sky Blue have come a long way. Or rather, are improving. I'm happy people like Julia Hart are improving. But if it comes down to it, if you want to put asses in seats, you want to fucking actually sell tickets, is it Julia Hart or fucking Britt Baker? No, I'm gonna go with Britt Baker. You got Thunder Rosa's finally back. You know, because she had a pretty bad back injury for a while she had to recover from. It looks like they're pushing her to become champion. I have no faith they will put the belt on her. Hell, she might disappear next week for all I know. So it's like, as a fan, you can't get invested. It's hard to be invested in anything. So it's like, what the fuck do you do, right? When CM Punk was there, and him and MJF were feuding for months, you could be invested. There was an eventual payoff there. Right? When him and Moxley feuded for a while, there was a payoff. But again, if your fucking storylines that worked was around CM Punk and he's no longer there, then what do you have? Well, before that, I could think of maybe when Britt Baker, again, and Thunder Rosa were feuding. That fucking worked for a while. And then, unfortunately, Thunder Rosa, after a while, once that feud was over, not too long after, she hurt her back. But they never told the audience she hurt her back. So it's like, it's a fucking mess. It really is a mess. Dasha, who was an amazing ring announcer, right? We're talking like top caliber. I dare say she's right up there with Lillian Garcia, if anyone's familiar with her as a ring announcer from years ago in WWE. What, baby? You yelling? Yeah, you got something to say? Loki's gotta throw her 2 cents in. But Dasha, amazing ring announcer. I mean, she brought the fucking energy, like when she was in, regardless who was coming down the ring. I felt she added legitimacy. And it's like, okay, we have this amazing ring announcer. She can host stuff, so she's great at, like, if they needed her in a position where she's just gonna, like, interview people backstage, did a fantastic job. If they had to put her in a position where she's even on the pre-show, hyping up the pay-per-view, she did a fantastic job. There was a few times I recall back in the day they had her on commentary, and she did an okay job on commentary. But a great ring announcer. And what did they do? Oh, let's release her. Really? You're gonna release her, but you keep the other schmuck, who whatever, I forgot his name. He's the other ring announcer they have. So it's just like it's like. Yeah, you have a bloated roster, but you have 4 shows. If they didn't treat Ring of Honor like an afterthought, there would be room for these other people. There would be room to... probably cheaper, yeah. Or knowing her, she realized her value, and maybe her contract was coming up, and she realized, I'm worth more than they're offering. I hope she gets a job elsewhere and does well for herself. Probably gonna go to WWE. Given that, they got Vince the fuck out of there, so maybe it's a safer work environment now. But with her, it's like, what are you doing? The woman that could hype up the crowd and, like, get people excited. You're like, yeah, go away. I don't want that. Bring that boring schmuck over here, and have him fucking announce shit. It's infuriating. Yeah, I don't know. I guess the way I put a bow on it, Tony Khan's a fucking money mark. He can put an amazing match together, but he has no idea on what long-term booking is, or how to tell a proper story, or how to keep people interested. And again, this is coming from someone who from day one loved AEW. Let's also not forget the AEW video game, which was a complete missed opportunity. You could not have the freedom to create a wrestler like you could back in the day with WWF No Mercy because, well, they wanted to sell DLC. So they forego what could have been an amazing create a wrestler system, so you will go buy their stupid season pass bullshit. Which is why I never bought the game. Yeah, there was a video game. AEW Fight Forever, a game that they had a good foundation. Let's pull up those amazing Steam charts. How is AEW Fight Forever doing on PC? You know what? I'll be generous. To be fair, we'll also pull up WWE. Was it 2K24? You're the first time hearing about it because they didn't market it for shit. Just like they don't market their fucking shows. So what we're seeing is currently there are 2 people playing. Oh, there's no problem with context. There's 2 people playing AEW Fight Forever. There were 12 people in the last 24 hours, with an all-time peak of 1,428 people. And for 2K24, you had 1,371 people playing in the last 20 minutes. 2,591 people playing in the last 24 hours. I wonder what the previous year's version is doing, right? Because, not everyone bought 2K24 right away. Oh, look at that. Even last year's game still has more players than AEW Fight Forever. Alright, I wonder what 2K22 has. Oh my god, even WWE 2K22 has more players right now than AEW Fight Forever. A 2-year-old game, which, is not a ton of players, but a 2-year-old game is beating out Fight Forever, right? No, it's still there, with mostly negative reviews. Yeah, sure, I would love to buy... Oh man, I can't wait to spend $25 so I can have FTR. Don't get me wrong, I love FTR. They should have just been in the game. Why the fuck are they DLC? You know what's funny about this pack right here? So, the bunny, right here, is not even with AEW anymore. She asked for her relief. Oh, that's another guy, Danhausen. I love Danhausen. What the fuck has he been doing in AEW? Oh, it does suck, Blastoise. It's depressing, I'll be honest. Here's the funny thing about Season Pass 2. Oh look, there's Jade Cargill. What happened to her? Oh, that's right. She went to WWE and fucking is already has a rocket strapped to her back and is going to the fucking moon. Like, she went into WWE and came, and with her recent premiere on SmackDown and her, Bianca Belair, and Naomi teaming up for the WrestleMania match they're going to have against Damage Control, she already has a rocket on her back. What's Season 3 have? Let's see. I guess game modes, Swerve Strickland's, who's great. They have, there's people in the game that aren't even with the company anymore. Gotta go, Class starting to have a good wrestle stream. Thanks, you Blastoise. Yeah, and Danhausen is great, but it's one of those things, it's like, okay, AEW, what are you doing with Danhausen? He's just around. They didn't do anything with him. When Hookhausen could have been a thing, they didn't do anything with him. Oh, look at that, the Storm is Coming pack. Yeah, I totally want to pay $12 just for Tony Storm. This is the problem. This is why this game failed. And don't get me wrong, the 2K games also have a ton of DLC. But the 2K games also have a really good create a wrestler. So if there's a wrestler you want, the game doesn't have it, you can make it. Not so much in AEW. Fight Forever.